Hello Internet, my name is Lave and I watched Searching, which is directed by Aneesh Chaganty. I hope I'm pronouncing that right because he's a director I'm not familiar with. But I've been hearing some really good things about this film, so I was very keen to go and see it. Which follows a guy called David Kim, played by John Cho, who is a widowed father to his daughter Margot, played by Michelle La, who's mysteriously disappeared, so David sets out to find her by looking through her laptop and her social media profiles. So a simple premise for a mystery thriller, but this film does have a USP in the fact that the entire film is told from the perspective of a computer screen. I think other films have done it, like Unfriended Dark Web, but I haven't seen either of those films, so I can't comment on those. But I was worried going into this one that it was going to be a bit of a visual strain, a bit like looking at a computer screen too closely for too long, a bit like, yeah, I can't see her, she's definitely not here. But it actually works extremely well. I think the makers have been extremely inventive with the editing and the visual effects as it bounces around from apps to web pages and video calls and FaceTime, with the cursor literally pointing and guiding you through the investigation. It sort of becomes this virtual pinboard as David starts piecing together the events and how they happen, and I found myself looking at apps running in the background which he hadn't fully closed down, looking for extra clues. So that aspect of the film is actually very well done and extremely satisfying. And the makers have been wise enough to give us a little bit of respite every now and again with maybe a shot of a screensaver, which takes on this whole melancholic meaning as you're staring into this abyss, like images of this shapes swirling around. There's also some news footage in there to keep the narrative chugging along, but it's needed. And there was a moment where I snapped myself out of the film because it felt like it was just one big advert for all of the big technology companies like Microsoft, Apple, Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr. They're all in there, but I suppose it would have been more distracting had they not have used the actual apps and used something like FacePage or Twitter. Yeah, that would have been weird. My other worry going into this film was that the format might create this disconnect between the characters and the actors and their performances, when actually quite the opposite happens, especially at the beginning of the film with this opening montage which almost rivals the opening montage in Up with Carl and Ellie growing up. Almost. It's surprisingly effective, and at times I was sitting there thinking, I'm actually invading this family's personal life and their personal digital space by looking at all of their videos and their pictures. It sets up the film perfectly, and performance-wise, John Cho and Michelle La are absolutely believable as a father and daughter. As the film progresses, you find out more about their relationship and you discover that their relationship may not be as strong as he thinks, which is something that I want to discuss a little bit further, but it's venturing into spoilers, so I'll talk about that at the end of the video. Along the way, he talks to various people through online calls and social apps and messenger services, and the supporting cast all do a good job too. They all feel like real people, all with online profiles and avatars of their own. Everything that David does is maybe morally a bit questionable, but is completely understandable. As he gets more and more desperate, he takes more and more desperate measures. He eventually logs into his daughter's computer and hacks her passwords and her social apps. And I really like the fact that he builds up this spreadsheet of everyone that she knows and that she's met in the build up to her disappearing. The film also does a fantastic job of highlighting the darker side of the web and the dangers of talking to people that you don't really know with fake profiles and fake avatars and trolling. And as the film progresses, you start to question everyone that he meets. Are they genuinely trying to help him, or are they hiding something, or are they just trying to hog the limelight? There's plenty of twists and turns along the way. Arguably it does stretch the limit of believability towards the end, but overall I found it quite satisfying the way it wraps things up. And I also want to add that there were a couple of moments where I genuinely laughed out loud, with some well-judged moments of levity which doesn't distract from the seriousness of the situation or take away from David's anxiety at trying to find his daughter. I think that's a good sign of a well-written film which manages to balance quite a range of emotions. So that's my thoughts on Searching, and pause the video if you want to take a closer look at my enjoyment tracker now. This film has got a great bang up to date concept and it executes it extremely well. However, there is one thing that's holding me back from saying it's a truly remarkable, brilliant film. But to divulge what I mean, I need to get into spoilers. So if you haven't seen it, you should click away now. As I mentioned, this film does a great job of highlighting the dangers of talking to people online that you don't really know. However, I do think it misses a trick with regards to its underlying message, which is that David is in constant contact with his daughter, but he doesn't really ever talk to her about her feelings or how she is. And the way that it wraps up with him finding his daughter, he quickly resorts back to being that distant parent and texting her again, where I think the film could have been much more powerful had it abandoned the format of seeing it through a computer screen and actually filmed it traditionally, with them being together in the same room and talking about it, with him saying to her, "Your mum would be proud of you too," and embracing with a hug. I think that would have been a much more powerful ending, personally. I'm just speculating, but I wonder if Microsoft and Apple and Twitter and Facebook asked them to have a positive message with them using all of their tech, which maybe have compromised the film in my opinion, but overall still a great watch and a good concept and well executed. You should go and see it. So thanks very much for watching my review of Searching. I really do appreciate it. If you can, give this video a like and don't forget to share the lave. This is better than IMAX. Subscribe